Alrighty, Algebra 2. In this video, we'll be going over solutions to two problems. So this is the first problem, and this will be the second problem. Let's start off with this one. So we are going to use square roots, and they want us to write our solutions over imaginary numbers. So let's go ahead and get started. So to start solving for x, I want to isolate the variable. So to do that, I'm going to start off by dividing 23 on both sides of the equation. So that leaves me with 2x squared equals, let's see, negative 25 minus 23 is negative 48. Okay. And so then from here, I want to divide 2 on both sides of the equation. Be careful, we're not going to subtract 2, we're dividing by 2. And that leaves me with x squared equals negative 24. Okay, and then our last and final step is to take the square root of both sides of the equation, and I'm left with x equals the square root of negative 24. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is incorporate our imaginary numbers and break down that square root of 24. So I have x equals the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 24. And then I want to break down the square root of 24 as much as I can. So I've got my handy list of perfect squared numbers over here. And I know that I can start like right here at 16 because 24 divided by 25 is not going to give me a nice number. Neither is 16. 24 is not divisible by 9. That will give me a nice number to work with. But 24 is divisible by 4. So 24 is the same thing as 4 times 6. So what I'm really going to do is replace the square root of 24 with the square root of 4 and the square root of 6 and bring down the rest of my equation. So I want the square root of negative 1, and I almost forgot my plus and minus because I want both solutions. Okay, so then from here, let's start replacing. Or substituting. I can substitute negative 1 with I. I can substitute the square root of 4 with 2. And that square root of 6 is going to come along for the ride because it does not simplify down anymore. So I've got x equals plus or minus I times 2 times the square root of 6. So if I clean that up, I've got x equals plus or minus 2i times the square root of 6. And just in case we need to see that one more time, that means our two solutions are the positive and the negative version of that. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at the next one. So for here, we're going to follow a similar process. So I'm going to start off by isolating x squared, which means I'm going to subtract 16 on both sides of my equation. And I get 3x squared equals, let's see, 4 minus 16, that's negative 12. And then I want to divide both sides by 3, divide by 3. So I'm left with x squared equals negative 4. Okay, so now I want to take the square root, so square root both sides. And I've got x equals plus or minus the square root of, I want to break down that negative 4 into negative 1 times the square root of 4. Well, I don't need to break down the square root of 4 anymore because that's already a perfect square number. It's written right here. So I can just jump right ahead and say our answer is x equals plus or minus I times 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So when I clean that up, my answer is x equals plus or minus 2i. Thanks for watching.